Good evening. Welcome to Zimmerman Elementary School and to the 2016-17 school year. My name is Cynthia Coelho and I am your proud principal. I am extremely honored and privileged to serve our school community. At Zimmerman, our amazing staff is committed to providing our students with the absolute best possible educational experience.
We emphasize traditional values while focusing on our 4 behavior expectations. Be respectful. Be responsible. Be safe. And have integrity. We exhibit and model these character building traits for our students in order to help them develop a desire for lifelong learning. Our academic program includes the Common Core state standards, taught through a balanced, meaningful, and academically rigorous curriculum, which is supported by a variety of evidence-based instructional strategies to ensure all students learn at high levels. The social and emotional well-being of our students is critical throughout their school career, and at Zimmerman, students feel connected through their relationships with their teachers and peers. They also connect through enrichment activities such as ASB Spirit Days, 100-Mile Club, Dance Team, Choir Club, Gardening Club, and Think Together program. Special events include recognition assemblies, Red Ribbon Week, field trips, Field Day, Fall Festival, Zimmerman's Got Talent Dance, Science Fair, fundraisers, Readathon, Walkathon, Jump Rope for Heart, and Accelerated Reader Water Day celebration.
Our school strives to strengthen the homeschool relationship. We would like to extend a warm welcome to our new Zimmerman families. We offer great family engagement opportunities throughout the entire year. Get involved through our parent groups, PTO, ELAC, School Site Council, Coffee with the Principal, classroom volunteering, helping hands, and English classes. Also, please be sure to attend our Back to School Night, Title I parent meetings, Common Core Family Night, Family Dance, PBIS Family Picnics, Grandparents' Day, PTO Movie Night, Authors and Illustrators Celebration, Student of the Month Assemblies, and Perfect Attendance Assemblies.
In the office, you can find Miss Sandy, Miss Cindy, Miss Lorraine, and in the library, you can find our librarian, Mrs. K. We have our amazing support staff, Mrs. Almendares, Mrs. Gustafson, Mrs. Perales, Mrs. Hall, and Mrs. Calles. In our health office, you will find Miss Rebecca, Miss Sheila, and our nurse, Miss Kelsey. Our custodian, Mr. David, is always ready to help. Our cafe staff is awesome in all that they do to get food to your children. Our noon duty supervision staff works hard and diligently to keep our children safe. Our Think Together staff extends the learning day for participating students. In kindergarten, we have Mr. Delapaz, our transitional kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Harworth, Mrs. Every, Mrs. Curtis, and Mrs. Brayford. In first grade, we have Mrs. Granado, Mrs. Priest, Miss Swickard, Mrs. Seelert, and Mrs. Bragg. In second grade, we have Mrs. Ward, Mrs. Rodriguez Vasquez, Mrs. Queso, and Mrs. Shornack. In third grade, we have Miss Salazar, Mrs. Decker, Miss Robinchinsky, and Mrs. Drain. In 4th grade, Mr. Wang, Mrs. Carrillo, Mrs. Fuente, and Mr. McDonald. In 5th grade, we have Mrs. Eubanks, Mr. Aiello, Mrs. Macias, and Miss Schmidt. In 6th grade, we have Mrs. Ibarra, Mrs. Johnston, Mrs. Apodaca, and Mrs. Beltran Ramirez. Our administration is our assistant principal, Mrs. Valdez, and our principal, Mrs. Coelho.
From our family to yours, we wish you and your child many successes and look forward to a magical school year. Thank you.